Good morning, Grimsley Haunt fans! Yeah, good morning, guys. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make fake brick walls, or at least how we make our fake brick walls. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need, obviously, I'm going to be using a small piece of styrofoam to show you guys. Obviously, you need the full-size piece of styrofoam. We use a 4x8 piece, but for the purposes of this video, I will be using just a small piece so you guys can get the idea. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you the tools you will need to start one of these. Uh-oh, who showed up?
We're here to help!
That is my Aunt Brenda and my Uncle Brian.
What's happening, bruh?
You will see them at Scare LA this year.
Yeah, we're gonna scare you. We're gonna scare you, all right. Look, this is scary enough, isn't it?
Okay, so to make a fake brick wall, the first thing you're gonna need, obviously, is the styrofoam. You will also need a Dremel. It has one of those ends on it. You will need a heating gun, which you can get these from Home Depot. We got this one for about 22 bucks. You will need a straight edge. And these are pretty cheap. You can get them down at your hardware store or Home Depot, same thing. Pen or pencil or a marker, just something to draw the stuff with. The other things you will need is two kinds of paint. One to do a base coat over the whole thing, and another one to paint the brick. The other thing you will need is one of these wire brushes to carve out cracks or anything you want to do. And the other thing is going to be sponges. Now the first sponges I used were not these. I used the sponges that were the yellow and green sponges, and those worked great. The only reason I have these is because these were actually cheaper, and I figured that, hey, they're sponges, they'll work the same way. But it turns out I don't like these so much. I mean, they paint the same way, it goes on the same, but trying to use these is a lot harder. The yellow and green sponges, the green side is the tough side, and so you can hold on to that side and paint really easily. With these, both of the sides are exactly the same, so this thing gets really squishy and it's hard to hold on to and paint. So if you can, I'd say get the green and yellow sponges, and I think that's all you're gonna need. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're gonna grab is the straight edge, and you're gonna get your piece of styrofoam. And we measure our bricks. We do it 4 inches by 9 inches. So, to give you the idea, we go along here and we will mark 4 inches. Right here, this is even marking. That's not even working. Give me a pencil. That's not marking either. Do we have anything that will mark?
And when you get ready to do this, make sure you have a pencil or pen that marks.
I don't like using the big ones, but
Hey, they work.
okay, so we got the big marker here. You're going to start off 4 inches, 8 inches, 12, 16, 20, and that's already 24.
And he knows how to add.
Yeah. Okay. And the next thing, we're just going to go ahead and draw the lines. Okay, so you go 9 inches from here, and you'll mark, and then you want to skip and go to the next one. Skip that one. go ahead and draw those ones on. And for the ones in between, you're just going to go half of that. Doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to look close enough. And go ahead and draw those ones. Okay, so now you got your brick drawn out. Now the one thing you want to remember is obviously you can't do the piece that's going to go next to your styrofoam. The next piece of styrofoam that goes next to this one, you can't measure it the exact same way. Because if you do, then you're going to have really long bricks on it that aren't going to look right. So make sure each one you do, measure starting with this side of the styrofoam, just these pieces. And then measure, and then after you get that first side done, you can go ahead and do the regular 9x4. So the next thing you want to do is you want to get your Dremel. So when you do this, you want to make sure to go at an angle. It's going to cut out a lot better that way. And then you can use a straight edge if you want to. I started out using a straight edge, but I don't anymore because you start getting the hang of it.
I would suggest while you're doing this to keep your mouth closed because all these little particles fly up and you'll have a mouthful of them.
So these lines, they're obviously not perfect. I just went really fast. But that's why you can start out using the straight edge too, because it's going to help you with the straight lines. So once you get your foam carved out, the next part is grabbing your wire brush. You can get these at Home Depot. I think we got this for like $1.50 or something like that. It's really cheap. So you're going to use this just to carve out your foam however you want to. Take some sides and round it out. You can round them out, make some cracks. Carve little pieces out to make it look like chunks. We're taking off the brick. Really simple stuff. You can do whatever you want. You have to clean up your styrofoam after. But once you get the carved out look that you want, this is when your heating gun comes in. Did I say gum or gun? Sound like I said gum. Heating gun. Like I said, you can get these for we got ours for $22 over at Home Depot. You can use the low or high setting. I just use the high setting. And you don't want to get too close. You have to kind of get a little bit close because you need it to melt. but you don't want to hold it in one place for very long because it will melt a hole through it. So you're doing this, using this just to kind of get the rough texture look of brick. Okay.
That's what it's like before, and that's what it's like after.
Okay, and this stuff, it dries very fast. It's already dry, but it helps it gives it that texture. You can see the more rough texture, it looks more like brick, and it also kind of firms up the styrofoam just a little bit more, which is really good. So the next thing you want to do, we have our paint. Okay, so this is the color paint that we got. Has a little bit of a green tint to it, but you really don't see that in the end once it's all done. Now what you want to do with this, you're going to paint the whole thing with it. And this color is going to be used for the color of the grout. So the inside lines. Okay? So you just paint this really fast. You don't have to be careful or anything. And that's it. So you get your whole board painted. I'm going to let this dry for just a minute, and then I'll come back and we'll start on the brick. Okay, so this is all dry. The next part, you want to get your paint that you're going to be painting your brick. This is it's really orange, but it ends up, for us, we love the look of it in the end. So I usually get a container to pour it in. I just poured a little bit into this old pan we use as a noise maker. And you get your sponge. I wear gloves because it does get a little bit messy on your hands. So you just take and you want to dip your sponge in there and then rub off what you can. And then you're going to take and you're just going to start pressing down. Now you will start running out of paint, but when you do, do not go back right away and dip into the paint. Because with brick, if you look at it, you have different color brick. So you want to try and use up as much of this paint as possible, because you want some brick that look dark, like these ones right here. And you want some brick to start looking a little bit lighter. And don't worry about the holes in the brick. These little holes that are showing through, it's perfectly fine. That's what brick does. So you can see how light it is compared to the other end. And that's what you want. But what you should probably try, what I like to do, is I usually, on the big piece of styrofoam, I choose different places to go over so it's not in a direct line, you know, dark, light, dark, light. You want it just all over the place. Okay, so that's pretty much it for painting the brick the color you want. Now I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll do the dry brush of the black. Alright, so the last thing you want to do once your brick is all dry is get black paint. Just flat black paint. Doesn't need to be glossy or anything, flat black. And you're going to be doing a dry brush. So I get a separate, I just use a stick and a brush, dip a little bit of black paint and get as much of it off as you can in the paint can, and then take that and wipe it off on the stick. You want to get as much paint off as you can. And once you get that, then you're going to go over the bricks, and it's going to go very lightly. Get in the cracks. Kind of almost gives it like a burnt look, as if it had caught fire at some point. And then once you start to run out a little bit too much, go back to your stick. Get some of that extra paint off and start going over. You can leave some parts a little bit lighter and the other parts darker. That works fine. Once you get that done, then there you go. Let that dry and you'll have your brick wall. So this is what one of the full ones look like. Try and stand it up here. That's what it'll look like once it's all finished. So you could probably, I'd say you can, if you have at least 4 to 6 people working with you, you can probably knock out 2 to 3 of these in one day. So it goes pretty quick when you have quite a bit of people. If you're doing it by yourself, you can knock one out by yourself in a day. But it's not bad at all. There you go. That's how we make our brick walls. Scary dreams, guys.